Hi folks. Most people who read The Machine Stops, a short science fiction story by E.M. Forrester, can't help but marvel that he wrote it all the way back in 1909. Sure, by this time, the likes of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells had already written about journeys to outer space, the bottom of the ocean, and even through time. But those seem like obvious extrapolations of the ideas of that era, compared to the fully automated and networked world that Forrester imagined. Things about this story seem as foreign to that time as they seem eerily familiar to our own. This is, after all, the guy best known for novels like Howard's End and A Room with a View. I have not read these books or seen the film adaptations, but I'm guessing they are pretty much the way Eddie Izzard describes them.
The kind of, room with a view with a staircase and a pond type movie. Films are very fine acting, but the drama is rather sort of subsumed or just sort of folded in, and everything's people opening doors. Oh, what? Well, What is it, Sebastian? I'm arranging matches. Well, I thought, I'd better go. Yes, I think you'd better have.
Though they could be crazy, I don't know. I have read Forrester's short story, The Other Side of the Hedge, and I found it very good and fairly trippy. So maybe the previews for those films don't present what's going on. Anyway, his work is in the public domain, so you can easily find this story, including in a link in the description. I highly recommend you check it out. In the story, all human beings live underground in honeycomb-like structures because they have destroyed the surface of the earth. That's not the part I think reminds me of today, though if we keep pushing we could get there. Every individual has their own room where they can press a button to get anything they need. Food, clothing, music, movies, medicine, lighting, a hot bath. A fully automated world where the machine can fulfill basically any desire. Although people are very isolated from one another in terms of in-person contact, everyone can communicate via the machine's information network. They can have one-on-one video chats, and they can watch or give lectures on any subject. Everyone has rich intellectual lives, but they have very little direct contact with other people. When the main character, Vashti, takes an airship, she feels uncomfortable interacting with the stewardess for her needs instead of asking the machine, a trend we might find familiar in our increasingly automated world. Inhabitants of the machine don't like in-person contact, or any direct experience for that matter. They instead focus, and I'm not making this up, on talking about ideas.
And I have to say that my brain is still in recovery mode from taking in so many high-level important ideas.
I'm not joking about this. Vashti repeatedly talks about getting new ideas from the machine, and when she needs to travel to meet her son, something she does not want to do because she thinks video chat is just fine, she laments that she did not get any new ideas on her trip. The way any person can broadcast to all of humanity looks like YouTube to me. Other aspects look like a more accelerated version of the medium. People have very few, if any, real in-person relationships. Instead, most relationships are parasocial. That is, relationships mediated by the machine with people they have never met in person. Although people in the machine live for ideas, they don't care for what they call first-hand ideas, those gained by direct experience or even from a primary source. They prefer commentary on these direct experiences and primary sources. Better yet, they seek out commentaries on those commentaries, and so on ad infinitum. I think that's how you pronounce that. This brings to mind the endless responses and counter-responses that YouTube and our hot take culture generate. Now, as the title suggests, the machine begins to break down and can no longer sustain people. The mending apparatus which fixes the machine stops working, and nobody knows what to do about it. People consult the book of the machine, but they can't seem to find the answers. Much like when a creator has a problem with YouTube and they can't speak to a human being about it. The inhabitants of the machine can't believe that it would go away. Just as we might find it difficult to imagine YouTube and social media disappearing. I'm not the first person to point out that it could very well happen, but I would like to explore what that would look like, as well as what actions we might take to change YouTube or create an alternative. YouTube as it exists is probably unsustainable. Google is not transparent, but many have suggested it is not profitable. Given the costs of hosting that much video and the rest of the infrastructure it requires, that seems very possible. 500 hours of video get uploaded to the site every minute. Simply storing that much video requires a ton of server space, to say nothing of running the algorithms that process the videos for copyright violations, and so on. At some point, Google could decide they don't want to keep losing money on YouTube and either close it down or change how it operates. I can only speculate what this would look like. It could charge viewers. It could charge creators who don't generate enough ad revenue. It could make things tougher for small creators so they don't bother taking up server space and processing power. You could argue they have already started to do this last one. I see only one solution to this problem and the problem of all tech monopolies. Put them in public hands and run them democratically. A lot of people on the left have called for this recently, and it might seem unprecedented, but it actually makes a lot of sense. All these companies operate on technologies created by government-funded research, so it makes little sense to have them in the hands of private industry. To the extent that private companies added their own value to them, I would argue they have become monopolies. When something becomes this all-powerful, it does not belong in private hands. These companies function as public utilities, and we should run them as such. We have another precedent to take these companies out of private hands. In the early days of TV, networks had to meet certain standards to show they operated in the public interest. This usually meant providing news coverage, something stations often did at a loss. Companies saw this as a cost of doing business, so they did it to keep their license. Somewhere along the way, the term public interest got stretched, and networks decided they could make money on the news. But we should look at social media platforms in a similar way, as something to run in the public interest, not for the profit of a lucky few. Now, making YouTube and other social media sites public fixes the situation somewhat, but it does not address how to equitably, ethically, and efficiently share this resource. At the moment, when you use a social media site, you are not the customer. You are the product. That's why they are free for you to use. They sell your data and use it to influence your behavior. A publicly owned social network would function differently. You would no longer be a commodity. You would be a citizen with a stake and say in how the platform operates. What exactly this would look like is something we would need to hash out democratically. This would start with creating some kind of structure with which to govern decisions about the site, something that in itself would require a lot of debate and consideration. I see a couple issues coming up for debate. First, how to share this resource. I could imagine giving every person a universal basic amount of space to host their public videos. I don't know what we would decide for creators who surpass that threshold. We could decide more popular content creators get more space, or we could charge creators for additional videos. Neither of these really satisfies me, so I think we have some hard choices and heated debates ahead of us on this. But I don't think we should give everyone unlimited space. Although they stay out of sight, servers and other infrastructure takes up huge amount of energy and resources, and given the ecological crisis we face, we should use them responsibly. Second, we need to decide what kind of algorithms we want managing the site. As some of my fellow leftist YouTubers have pointed out, these social networks currently serve capital. They want to maximize traffic and ad revenue, mostly by promoting conflict. So what would a socialist YouTube look like? Or a socialist Twitter? Could that even exist? Would they look anything like these platforms in their current incarnation? These platforms use techniques pioneered by casino slot machines to keep you on them. Would putting them in public hands just be like having state-run casinos? Do we just want to turn these things into the lottery? You might not know how insidiously these platforms manipulate us, so let me tell you a story I heard a few years ago at a tech conference. No doubt the techniques have gotten more sophisticated in the 8 years since I attended ContactCon. In any case, a speaker, I believe it was Eli Pariser, gave attendees this scenario as an example of what not to do when building platforms. He told us that Facebook knows if a woman posts or uploads pictures of herself, her male friends will spend more time on Facebook looking at them and probably comment, making them spend even more time on the site. They also know that if a woman sees pictures and posts from her female friends, she is more likely to post pictures of herself. So, if Facebook notices that a single guy is not using the site as much as they think he could, they won't target him directly. Instead, they will make sure that one of his single female friends sees more posts from her female friends. This causes her to post more, which causes him to look at the site and comment more. And that's how we get the reply guy. At least I think so. I'm still not sure what that phrase means. Like a lot of these online neologisms, I don't fully get it. These algorithms hack our brains and influence our behavior to keep us wired into their networks. Could we use this for good? Or will any foray into this corrupt us and be just plain immoral? I don't know for sure, but I think if we put transparency and democracy at the forefront of this process, we could do something much better with these networks. We could potentially show people things they like without sending them down alt-right rabbit holes. We could expand viewers' horizons without suggesting videos they won't watch. We could promote positive behavior and sharing. It might not engage folks as much as appealing to the lowest common denominators of controversy and drama, the current model, but it could still keep people connected and perhaps foster better values and interactions than the current paradigm. The old BBC model comes to mind here. Rupert Murdoch always criticized the BBC for following popular TV programs with educational or more highbrow entertainment. But as a parent, I often find it necessary to sneak vegetables into my kids' food. Who am I kidding? I would much rather eat kale leaves chopped up and snuck into soups and sauces than have to eat kale by itself. Anyway, if we can take over these networks, we need to realize their manipulative power. We need to make them transparent and democratic so that nobody can use them against us. Otherwise, we will end up right back where we are. Thanks for watching, folks. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you really like what I do here, please support me on Patreon. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. Patrons at the Rebel tier and up get premium content where I discuss psychedelics, the occult, and other not safe for work stuff. I also have some tarot t-shirts for sale. They feature the major arcana of the Marseille deck, which you find decorating my channel. I have them in a bunch of colors and in unisex and women's cuts, long sleeve and short sleeve. I'm Greg Belvedere. Remember, all generalizations are stupid, so never speak in absolutes. Rebel Base, out.